Hi everyone, I'm Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio, and today we're working on our block of the month for November. And of course, the biggest and most important holiday in November for those of us who like to eat is Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is filled with all things from the fall harvest and our thanks for all of the good things that have happened to us. So join us just after this, and I'll show you how I'm getting started on our block of the month for November. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Well, hi and welcome back. We're getting started on our block for November, and I say getting started because I'm going to introduce you to the primary focus of our block today. And more than likely, I'm going to come back to this and add some other things later on. But I wanted to get you started, and you can take this and run with it how you like and add the things that are special to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a turkey on our block for Thanksgiving. And we're going to use the Dresden templates to do this. And for the one I'm doing, I am actually using the largest template. Now, let me say, I was very disheartened, that's a good word, not too long ago when I found out that the company and the lady who makes this particular template was going out of business. And while I would love to have a lot more of her templates, it looks like maybe they've closed down or they're ceasing to produce these anymore. And I don't really know what the actual status is right now. But let me tell you what it is, because it's possible that you might could order it, or it's possible that you might could pick it up secondhand. But this is the Dresden plate template packet, and it's from Marty Mitchell, M-A-R-T-I, Mitchell, M-I-C-H-E-L-L. And this again is the set for the Dresden plates. And in this set, she gives you 3 of the rounded tips for the Dresdens and then 1 for the pointed tips. And we're going to use that one for the pointed. And for mine, I picked to do not the largest size, but the next largest size. So that means I cut at the 10.5 strip width for the piece. And here I have one that I can show you just like I cut. And I'm going to show you really quickly how those go together. They're very easy, and if you're looking to do either a Dresden plate or the turkey, I think you'll find it very easy. Now you're just going to cut that to that size. If you wanted to make it a little bit bigger, and you probably could make this turkey a little bit bigger with this 15-inch square, you would make it full size. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that piece we cut and we're going to fold it in half, and then we're going to sew a seam right here at the top. And for mine, I usually use a quarter of an inch seam. Let me swap out my feet real quickly. And I'm just using white thread on these because most of these fabrics have some kind of pattern in them. And while they're in the tans and the brown colors, the white does not seem to cause a problem with that. Okay, we're just going to stitch. Oops. There we go. And I've got 2 here I'm going to do really quickly. You want to fold those right sides together. And you can chain stitch those and it makes it really quick. Okay, so now we've got that stitched together. And then we're just going to flip it. Now you can give that edge a little bit of a clip. Most of mine I did not, but you can. And then you're just going to flip that point out and use something with a kind of pointy but not a sharp to give you that nice point. And same thing with the other. Okay. And then we're going to try to skip pressing for our quick demonstration here. And we'll just put a couple of pins to hold that point in place. But I would recommend for yours that you go ahead and press it. It'll make it much easier to work with. Now, a couple of things you can do. On these templates that she provides, there is a hole right here. And that hole will tell you where that 1/4 inch seam should be stopping. So when you were cutting, if you mark that, you can use that now. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put that in place. Okay, and then when we sew these together, you're going to sew them together with the right sides touching, the points in about the same spot, and then we're going to line up those points that you marked in there. And it may be a little bit off. I don't find that if it's a little bit off, it's much of a problem, but you don't want it way off. And then I'm just going to start stitching those pieces on the edge, and then I'll tell you about this whole fan of feathers in just a second. There's one side. You want to put those right sides together. That one's not pressed down real well, so it's wants to be a little cantankerous going in there. Okay, some of the challenging things when you're working with the Dresden plates are getting all of the plates to line up so they lay flat. But with this turkey shape, you don't really even have to worry about that because all of the blades are not being used as feathers, so they never have to join together in a circle. Okay, let's just finger press this, and then we'll talk about this. Okay, in my overhead camera, you should see that I have 9 blades that I'm using. You could use 7. I think anything less than 7 is not going to look like the turkey has its full feathers showing. But this is 9 blades, and what I did was I used a dark one in the center, and then I let my colors get increasingly pale as they came down. So that's going to be the turkey's feathers. I'm going to adjust that just a little bit so you can see it. Now we need a turkey body. So what I did was I created a circle out of a really dark brown fabric, and that was going to be the circle of my turkey's body. But I decided that for this turkey, that's a whole lot of feathers, and that little body wasn't quite big enough. Remember, we like to eat that turkey, right? So I got a little bit bigger one, and this circle, let me see, it is about 4 inches in diameter. So this is our new body. And what I did was I cut a circle out and I stitched 1/4 of an inch all the way around and then turned it under and starched it down to hold it. Now, right before I get ready to sew it down, I can pull this stitching out and never have to worry about that. I put a nice big stitch in there. So there's the turkey bottom. And then we need a neck. So then I used kind of a bowling pin shape. Bigger on this end, smaller on this end, a little bit elongated out of a neutral fabric. And that's going to be our turkey body. And we're going to put that right about there. And that's our basic turkey. Now, what we need to add are legs. And I struggled with the legs a lot because they're pretty small, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. I thought about using something like a ribbon or a bias tape, but we've got those pointy little feet, and that's going to be a problem. Let me show you about what I'm thinking about for the legs and feet. Here's my little sketch. I tried to do a satin stitch or a zigzag stitch on my machine to do this, and I think I'm just not experienced enough with being able to essentially paint with my machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this turkey onto my 15-inch block, and then I'm going to add some of the features like the feet with hand embroidery. So I'm just going to place this into its spot, like here. We'd have 2 of them, of course. And then use a disappearing pen to kind of lightly sketch the shape and where I want it. And then I'll just use a tan or a brown embroidery thread and stitch those in place. And then, of course, we're going to need some little eyes and a beak here. And I think that instead of struggling through doing it with a little piece of fabric, I'm just going right to the hand stitching. And you can always go online and just Google Dresden turkeys and see lots of examples of how people have done this. Now let me talk a little bit about how I would embellish this even more. And I've been thinking about some things that I wanted to do. And when I think of Thanksgiving, I think of pumpkin pie and turkey, and then I think of corn. Now, my first thought was I was going to get a big old piece of pie and do an applique to put this piece of pie on here. But then I got to thinking about it. I got a live turkey and a piece of pie, and they just didn't seem to go together. So what I think I'm going to do is come up with something that looks like an ear of corn. And maybe even, I'm not going to sew this on. I'm going to hold off on that just a little bit to see if I can come up with something that looks like corn, like an ear of corn with the green husk on it. And if I can, what I'll do is I'll put this turkey kind of up to one side or the other, a little off center, a little taller, and then put that ear of corn here. Now, unfortunately, at the time we were recording this today, I don't have that. If I get it together before this goes live, then I will add that footage in here and show it. But as it stands today, this is the way this is going to look, and it's going to have its feet and so forth. Regardless of whether I add the extra pieces or not, I will come back and show you the finished square so you can see that in our video today. Well, good morning. It has been a little bit of time since we were just here. I know it seems like just a flash for you, but I've finished our November block of the month, and I wanted to bring you back to show you what I've done. So, you know, we talked about this project, and it was a turkey that was made with the Dresden plate templates, and we have the turkey done. We did his body with a circle shape and then kind of a bowling pin almost shape for his body and his head. And we appliqued that all onto the 15 by 15 inch square. And then we embellished, or I should say, I embellished mine with some embroidery. And I'm a little rusty on my embroidery, but I think it turned out cute. There's still some things I'd like to do to enhance it a little bit more. I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned with this block of the month, is that my ideas really did not fulfill my expectation when I did them all just with the quilting. I was looking for really something that was a mesh of different needle arts, and it needed the details that embroidery or cross stitch or whatever other needle art skill that you wanted to add to each of these blocks. And this was a perfect example of that, how I used a little bit of embroidery with this block to bring out the features in the turkey and in the corn that we added. So here is the finished block. And you can see I have the turkey up here. And here is his feathers in the Dresden plates, and or fans, I should say. Blades, that's what they're called, blades. So we've used the Dresden blades to create a flume of turkey feathers. And to those feathers we added, there's that circle for the turkey body. And then we have this almost like a bowling pin shape for the front of his body and his head. And then I embellished that with some embroidery. I tried to do an applique of his legs and feet. They're just so small that I did not find it enjoyable to do. So that's when I turned to the embroidery. And I just used a little template or a little drawing to kind of go from that to show the shape and the size. And then I just used a little stem stitch to fill it in. And I used kind of a taupey brown for that. Not too dark, not too light. I wanted it to show up on this white background. And then for the eyes, I just used a little oval shape in white, and then something kind of like a circle in the black for the actual pupils of the eyes. And then a little inverted triangle for his beak. And that was done in kind of in a gold color, and this is the white and black. So that's where we are with the turkey. I think he looks really cute. Now you could choose to do your turkey a little bit bigger. You could make the turkey the full width of this board. On mine it's a little bit smaller, and that's why I added the extra element of the corn. And I decided on the corn because it was more of a raw product instead of a finished product. I thought pumpkin pie would be good, but I didn't think that the pumpkin pie and the turkey really went together, so I went with the corn. And I will have some drawings for these shapes. Here's the corn pieces and the little turkey body. And I'll give you the dimensions of the circle as well for all of this. Now with the corn, I used 3 of these pieces like this for the husk, and then this was the corn itself. And then I used a little scrap back here to make this one. And then on this yellow fabric, I used a little bit of stitching to differentiate between the actual corn kernels. So there's just some little running stitches in here to give a little bit of a square or rectangle shapes to that. Now, ideally, if I were going to go further with this, I'd probably use some embroidery thread to put some corn silk in here in the corn to make it just a little bit more lifelike. But for right now, that's where we're going to leave this for this project to be our block of the month for November. And I hope you've enjoyed this. We did cover some other things. We didn't cover the embroidery portion because we're really not an embroidery channel. That's not what we focus on. But sometimes you have to use those skills to embellish what you have. And maybe at some point in the future we'll do that, but we won't do it right now. I want to say too that this particular project has been one of the most challenging projects I've taken on. And there have been some times where I just wanted to kick myself for committing to do it for a whole year without a good plan in place before I did. And if you decide to do that, just make sure that you know what you're getting into. Now let's talk about the 2 months we have left. We have a block for December and we have a block for January. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what those are. December is going to be a big wreath, and it's going to be made with EPP pieces. Not the whole thing, but just the applique for the wreath. And it is, I would say, 80% done. I think I'm going to be very happy with that. I think you will like that too. And it's pretty easy to do. We're using the honeycomb shapes for that. So they're easy to get a hold of. They would be easy enough for you to make yourself. And we're not using that many because a little wreath is probably only about that big. So that's going to be fun, and I'm really looking forward to that one. And then for our January project, we're going to do a snowflake, and I think we're going to do the snowflake with the Dresden pieces again. They're quick and they're easy, and it'll come together really nicely. And because we'll be dropping that either late November or early December, we may drop December and January about the same time frame, maybe a couple of weeks apart. I don't want it to be something that's so complicated that you don't want to tackle it. And I also want to wrap this up because I'm ready to move on to new projects, and you probably are too. And we're going to start to get really busy here soon. So that's a little bit of a preview of what's coming up with the block of the month. We won't do one next year. I think one block of the month every couple of years is going to be well enough for me. And I don't know about anybody else, but I don't really enjoy them so much, having to design them and come up with the ideas. There's a lot of pressure involved with that. So this is going to be, when we do these next two, this is going to wrap that up. But that's where we are today. Those are my ideas for November. And like I said, I'm happy that you are here with us today and working on this. We've got a lot planned for 2025, and I'm looking forward to that. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope your turkey is delicious and your family and your friends enjoy the time that you have with them. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and invite your friends. And we'll see you next week at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Bye.